Wired Access.
We'll do it live.
Wired Access.
Do it live.
Wired Access.
We'll do it live.
Wired Access.
Welcome to Wired Access Podcast. I'm your host, DJ K-Dub Omaha. To my left here, I have Andrew Rogers from the Coffee and Cream Show of Hurrdat Sports in the Morning. Welcome to the show, Andrew. How are you doing after a 4th of July extravaganza?
Kendall, it's great. I put my phone down for 7 hours one day over the weekend. Didn't look at it. Didn't even check the time. Didn't scroll through Twitter, which I probably do 40 times a day. Left it on the patio table, and I said, I'm not doing it. I'm going into the lake, and I'm staying in the lake. The cooler is right by the edge of the dock. All I need to do is make trips to the cooler and back, and that's it. So it was refreshing, to say the least.
I'm glad you brought that up, because one of my biggest things is I think whether it's an athlete, whether it's someone that really is into their job, sometimes people don't understand the mental and what we really have to do. Like, I don't want to check my phone all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be on my phone all the time. But if you want to be successful at what you do, you have to put in the time, and it's hard for our significant others to find that out. So I'm pretty sure yours almost passed out when you put it down for 7 hours and was like, wow, this is what he's really like.
He's a real person.
He's a real person. So let's go. When did you start? You played sports growing up.
Yep.
When did the transformation from playing to wanting to talk about it happen for you? Because I think the hardest thing is growing up is going, man, I love sports. But when is that time to switch? For everybody's different, but you realized it earlier at a young age instead of putting in that time that you knew this is what you wanted to do.
Yeah, so in 3rd grade, I dressed up as Joe Buck for Halloween.
Okay.
And I had my mom always made my Halloween costumes. We never bought a single costume. I mean, there were hand-me-downs in a box. I could choose to be Batman one year or whatever. I don't know if she got them from Goodwill or if my brother was that previously, but I never got a Halloween costume like store-bought.
Yeah.
So one year I was a Royal Flush. My mom, out of cardboard boxes, made a Royal Flush of cards, and that's what I went as. Another year I was the Kool-Aid Man. So like she made a Kool-Aid Man outfit. We stuffed it with pillows and stuffing. So when I was Joe Buck, we got a suit from, I think I had a suit and I used my dad's tie. I think that's how it went. My dad had a Chicago Bears sports tie.
Bears.
Made a little Bears, indeed. Had a little name tag, made our own Fox Sports microphone, and I went as Joe Buck that year. But I always knew I wanted to be a broadcaster at a young age. I would watch every single Cardinal game from beginning of the season until the end, all 162 of them.
That's some dedication.
I listened to Dan McLaughlin, who is not on the call anymore. Never got to listen to Jack Buck, but even when I was on the road, it was Mike Shannon and John Rooney for the majority of my life. And then I'd watch not every hockey game, but more than half of the St. Louis Blues games. And John Kelly was a guy I looked up to as well. So I knew I wanted to call games, but your question's interesting because from a young age, I knew I wanted to broadcast games, but it was when am I going to throw in the towel on playing?
Yeah.
Was really it, because I had college scholarships to go play baseball. That's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to, wring out the rag as much as I could.
Take the game as far as you can go.
Before I said, okay, let's call games. But I knew that if I went to college to play baseball, one, I would end up at a school or university that didn't have a strong broadcasting program, because there aren't a lot out there. There's a very small handful of good broadcasting, communications, television, just
journalism altogether.
Journalism programs. So because of that, it really limited my options. And when I got scholarships to play ball, I had one at Spring Hill down in Mobile, Alabama. Robert Morris was the first to come knocking. I didn't have a lot of NAIA, but I had some JUCOs come at me. So I could have gone the JUCO route, do the straight A+ program, get my college paid for 2 years, and then go to another school. But I knew that I couldn't do the broadcasting I wanted to do at those programs. So instead of going to college for baseball, I actually said, let's go to school for school. And, to some degree, it's one of my bigger regrets, I'd say, not giving it a try, because I could have always went back and said, all right, year one, I'm not getting what I want to get out of it. Either place yourself in a spot where you'll get both, or you'll just do what you want to do for the rest of your life. I say that, but I wouldn't have gotten the experience I had at Lindenwood University, where I went to school back in St. Charles, if I didn't go to school for 4 years in broadcast.
But would you have had that opportunity of the unknown of going, man, I could take this baseball as far as it goes? Do you feel like your heart would have been in it as much if you weren't doing schooling for what you wanted to do?
I'd say no, because I wasn't always the best. I was good enough, but I wasn't the best to be a starter. So I would have to really work up for it. I remember I had conversations with coaches at Spring Hill, and they wanted me to pinch run. They said, we want to bring you on to be a pinch runner. You stole 33 of 35 in high school your senior year. We know you can read pitchers well. We want you just to be a pinch runner. Well, that doesn't sound very fun to somebody that, wants to play
the
baseball,
game.
not just a part of baseball. So I decided, okay, well, this isn't probably for me. So if I go to a smaller school, I'll get that playing time. But then it went into the conversation of the schooling portion of it wouldn't meet my expectation.
But you could have knocked out like your prereqs, right? You could have done that and tested the water.
But at Lindenwood, here's what's interesting. They throw you in year one.
Oh,
so
okay.
I was on TV doing a halftime show for football games, all home football games, second week on campus. Like, you don't get that if you go to Mizzou, who has a great J-School program. You don't go to Nebraska and get that, who has a really good journalism program. No, you only got that at Lindenwood because that's the way they operated. And the program was smaller.
Yeah.
So you had a lot more opportunity. I went from being a halftime host of football first semester of freshman year to being the women's color commentator for basketball. They never had a freshman do that, but I was so committed and so dialed in, and I knew the sport because I was a basketball official. I played the sport as well, so it was easy for me to see a lot of perspective.
See, and you're even taking it to another thing, like being in the game and being a part of the game makes the game come out of you differently as well. Because don't get me wrong, I'm not saying all the commentators in the world have had that opportunity, but when you've had that opportunity to play, officiate is a whole different thing, because then you're on a side where you're not choosing sides. You're calling what you're seeing. Yeah, you're not picking a side of the ref is this. You can say what you've seen and what you might have called, because a lot of times, especially nowadays, there's a lot of these color commentators that go, all right, let's go to Joe back at the studio about the referee call. I get it. You want to get a referee involved. I do. But if you've experienced that, then you could kind of flip it and make it a little easier.
My call better.
Yes.
And what's hard to balance too is being on a Homer network, which is the school network.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like, hey, we called games for the local ESPN affiliate for the college, but it was just, hey, we had a radio station on campus. That's what we're going to use. It was student run. But you're still on a Homer network. But when you're balancing you're rooting for Lindenwood, but you're also trying to explain how the referee is thinking in those moments, or at least that point of view that you may not understand or disagree with, it provided something to a broadcast that nobody had ever gotten there before.
Yeah. And when you talk about that small school environment and being able to build something, how did that not only shape to who you are today, but also help that school get to somewhere they've never been?
Well, it was already there, because I don't want to take credit for starting anything at Lindenwood. I'll take credit for leaving a footprint, because that was me. Yeah. I chose to leave my own footprint there. I could have slacked off, but I didn't. No, I forgoed hanging out with friends on the weekends, going to parties, whatever, to go call a high school football game on Friday, to go with the Lindenwood men's basketball team on the road to Emporia State University or Fort Hays, Kansas.
Yes.
Just because that's what I loved to do. So I missed out on things, but I knew the direction I was going. I was a grinder. I started my own radio show, the first sports radio show on that campus in 20 years, because I was dialed in with a buddy of mine, and we did it every week. We had guests on. It was all Lindenwood focused. We left our mark on Lindenwood. People didn't carry the mark that we left, but we left ours. But even before I got there, I mean, they graduated some names. Greg Amsinger on MLB Network. He was probably the biggest name to come out of Lindenwood. I mentioned Dan McLaughlin already. He was an LU grad. Randy Carricker, another grad. All three of them, grinders. Greg Amsinger went to small media market to work in news, ended up getting on the ground floor at MLB Network whenever they started up. Now he's a nightly studio host. Randy Carricker started at KMOX Radio. Basically, when they would cut clips together, it was when you attached it. It wasn't like it is nowadays when you can use a computer. And same thing with McLaughlin. He slept in his car when he went to call games, like high school games. Like, that's just the mentality you have to have in order to be successful in this career.
See, and I just don't think people understand, it's more of that stuff of the unknowns. You're trying to set a footprint to where other people don't know that the effort, the time, the unwilling time. Most people won't give that time, won't even give it a highlight. What was some of your struggles that you thought that you had to go through, whether it is the money part? People don't understand. Everybody thinks, oh, you're on TV, and obviously it is through Linwood, but still you're on TV or you're on this, and there's all this money there, but they don't realize that it takes a while before you see the gold pot on the other side of the rainbow.
And I still have yet to see that gold pot, believe it or not, Kendall. But no. So you're asking for still in college, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, just in general, what are some of those struggles of even a mentality to go, man, I could go do this, make this amount of money, but here I am still doing what I love, because I think the passion is hard to give up when you start out that way. Most people don't.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. It took me until my 30s before I started to finally get into things I loved. I had kids at a young age. I had to make sure that the money was right. Once you get the money right, then it's easier to do the things you love.
Right. So I'll take it this direction then, because what a lot of students, and I'm going to speak to students here, what they don't understand is you don't just, because you're on TV, make money. In fact, you're living off of practically food stamps when you work in a small TV market somewhere where that's where you have to be on the so-called ground floor in order to rise the ranks. I grew up in St. Louis. You don't just get onto a St. Louis news station and become the sports anchor every night. No, that guy's been doing it for 20, 25 years. And the reason he's doing it for that long is because he started somewhere else and made his way back. Yes, he's making a lot of money because they're market 23 in the Nielsen rankings, but you don't just go straight to the highest market. You have to be willing to take maybe $25,000, $30,000. I think after taxes, I made $22,000 in my first full-time job.
See, and that's a number that and it goes right along with even teachers. People don't understand, these people are going to college, paying out 3-4 times the amount that first year you're bringing in.
And I was blessed. My parents helped me out a ton, to the point to where I didn't have to take out loans. I only had to pay them back. So my dad put aside enough for me and my siblings so that instead of taking out federal student loans, we just paid him back. So
took
we didn't
out a pop loan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I am so blessed, and I know a lot of people aren't like that. So I will never say oh my goodness, I had it just as hard as you did. No, I was very fortunate and blessed, and I will own that. But that doesn't mean that I didn't work for everything that I got to now pay him back. It's not like I just got it for free.
For sure.
So when I went to Sioux City to be a sports anchor, I made $22K a year. That was probably after taxes. Had a roommate, had to have a roommate. I couldn't live in an apartment on my own. I would have lost all my money.
Yeah.
I did lose all my money. I was living off of my salary. And so I did that after a couple of part-time jobs, and I then went to UNO, and I worked in the athletic department at UNO, and this is public information, so I don't mind sharing this piece. But I made before taxes, $42,000. Now I'm working in an athletic department. So this isn't back in the news and broadcasting. This is, hey, I'm trying to make my own role in the video department there. And I did, but I still didn't get paid probably what I needed or deserved.
If you take it's more of like, I think that you got to really put in the hours that you have to involve.
Well, even in baseball,
because you're not getting paid per hour.
Right. Even in baseball, I had a job to go work for the Clearwater Threshers right out of college. Okay. So this was to be the color commentator for the single A affiliate of the Philadelphia Phillies in Clearwater, Florida. Seems fantastic.
Well,
right?
yeah. I mean, who wouldn't want Florida, live the life on the beach if you're not out with the team?
Kendall, guess how much they offered me?
I'm going to guess 27, maybe 28.
They offered me $10 an hour.
Ooh.
$10 an hour on game days. So what that meant was I only did the home games. So if there's, and I don't know how many minor league games there are, we'll just, for this scenario, say 60 games. There's 30 home games. Okay.
Well, and then you're only there for really like 4 hours.
4-ish, 5 hours, right?
So $40 don't make the pay.
So then I would have to get a job at like, Buffalo Wild Wings and be a server in the day and then go do that at night. Could I do that? Yes, because I'm a grinder. Did I want to do that? No, because I would actually hurt myself in the long run by doing something like that. Even if I got the job as the head broadcaster, they would make me become the communications and director of media for this team. And I'd still only make salary, probably $30,000 doing that job. People don't understand that working in sports at a low level isn't glamorous. And you have to be okay with that. You have to beat the grind. You have to get over the hump. It wasn't until I was 7 years removed from college, 6 years removed from college, that I actually started making real money.
And when you talk about the move up to Sioux City, what made Sioux City attracted to you?
Nothing. I just needed a job. So you can't find sports jobs in the place you want to find a sports job. You have to be willing to travel to a place that just gives you the job, gives you the opportunity, because the next job will then find you, as long as you're killing it where you are.
And doing what you want to bring to the table.
And so that's what I was doing. Now, where I had a fallout with my company in Sioux City, and I mean the big company, not like my little news station, was during COVID. They shut everything down. They switched my role from sports to only news. And I didn't sign up for that. Now, I did sign a contract, though, and I bit my own self in the rear end by doing that. But I didn't have a job at the time, and nor did I think I'd get another job during COVID. So I was they forced my hand.
Yeah.
So I signed it, but they gave me their word and said, we'll keep you in sports. And then that slowly deteriorated.
Well, yeah, because they got you. They got you into news, and
so I lost my fire, which is why I went out of the broadcasting field and went to UNO just to do video, because I took so much. My mental health just was destroyed.
And I think when you get taken back on the mental part, who was someone you talked to? Who was someone that kind of guided you to get you through that mental part?
My mom. So I was dating somebody at the time, and we were both in the same field. She was a news reporter up in the same area, which was wild that we ended up in the same place. That doesn't happen. But she didn't really get what I was saying because she experienced something different. But my mom was like a great wall to talk to. And then she would provide advice to me. There were so many conversations I had with her. I would drive.
And you're
home.
hours away. It isn't like,
I'm
it
7.5 away.
Yeah.
I would drive hour and 10 minutes to go cover a football game on Friday night, which is what I wanted to do. But I'm complaining about what they made me do 6 hours beforehand when I had to go to this student council meeting. And then I had this,
so you had to do news and then
I'm doing all this stuff for the 5 o'clock show. And then they're like, okay, go live for the football games at 5:30.
Your brain's got to be going like this.
Yeah.
From news to now. I gotta make sure I know names. I gotta make sure I know what's going on.
And I hated it, man. I hate the news. I really do. I don't watch the news.
I don't either. I can't,
because it hurts my heart. to like know what I went through. And there's no way that the people in those roles right now aren't going through the same things I went through.
Yeah.
As news people. Now, if you love news, by all means, take advantage of it, run with it. But if you love sports and they put you in a spot that you didn't want to be in, find a new home. Find a new home.
So you go to UNO, you go into video.
Mhm.
Now, obviously, video, especially now, short, quick clips, stuff like that.
It has to be more like a hype video.
What did you bring to the video department at UNO? And what did you provide? And what did you learn to get you to where you are today?
So I learned to lean into my strengths. My strengths are reporting, doing creative videos, things that are attention grabbing but can keep somebody there for a long time. That's what I'm good at. So a couple of examples. I wasn't the director. I was the assistant director, which was great because it allowed me to lean into my strengths. I didn't have like a set list of things that needed to be accomplished. I was assisting that set list while also doing and enhancing the video department. So I started weekly videos and did a total what's to come this week at UNO in the athletic department, whether it was games, whether it was events. I did that, post it, and it started to get a lot of traction by the sports team. So I just kept doing it weekly. And then I would do some fun get to know you videos with the players. I called one Coast to Coast. So I would take a basketball player from one hoop. No, I'm sorry, that was the hockey one. So I would start from one end of the ice. I'd walk to the other end, and it was just like
whoever you ran into is who you got the questions.
So if I talked to Johnny Tyconic one time and he got drafted by the Senators prior to that moment, I was like, what did it mean to like accomplish something so what you've been reaching for your entire life?
Yeah.
And so I would do videos like that, and those videos got good traction. And then I would MC the hockey games, MC the basketball games, because I used to be an MC for a minor league baseball team, and I love playing games with fans. I love being a hype guy. I'm just a loud, energetic person, so it's easy for me to be like, all right, boys, like let's get going, let's get this place.
People don't realize like it's a talent that like I even take pride in. Like I enjoy that atmosphere, creating the atmosphere, making the atmosphere. Just a little bit higher than what it is, whether it's a live show, whether it's, I DJ, I MC for a couple other DJs. Yeah, because they don't want to. Not everybody wants to be that. Spotlight.
Yeah.
I don't care if I look dumb. I don't care if I look.
It's all on the fly, and that's what I love about it. It's not scripted.
Yeah.
And I am such an ad-libber. I hate following a script.
See, and that's what I love about this. So, of course, I had a radio show before. No problems. I did live Facebook before it was a thing now on the radio. I did live Facebook for one segment. Everybody was like, why do you do this? This is stupid. You don't have to do it one. I'm like, no, just watch. And every time 200 views, blah, blah, blah. Like it's not big, but you don't know who those 200 views are that might catch on to something.
They may not even follow.
And now look at it. Every show wants to be live. whether it's on AM radio, FM radio, every show wants you to see who they are.
Coffee and Cream is on for 3 hours live.
Exactly. And that's what I love about it. I've been to some of your live shows. Obviously, Hurrdat Sports has came across. What attracted you to Hurrdat Sports?
So Hurrdat Sports wasn't a thing when I first got here. It was an idea. So when I was brought in by our big boss, Bill, he had this grand vision of what he wanted the sports department to be. And he wanted to form it around myself, Anna Bellinghausen, Sasha Durkin. Like that's who the three people in the room were from the very beginning. Sasha came with a lot of knowledge from a production standpoint. She also had worked with a lot of radio shows in the past, so she knew that big piece
that was
of it
her
all,
strength.
Right? Anna kind of won the area just by living here, going to school here, excelling at UNO and starting just something for the future for them with, Mav Radio, with I can't remember the TV show that they worked on, but they were just constantly involved. And she was involved with the sports commission too here. She was very community oriented, so she had a big presence here. And on top of that, she was a female. You don't get a lot of really good females out of college like Anna. You don't. They're pretty raw, and you have to work them into
get them into the mix,
right.
Get them the feelings.
Anna was there, like she had already gotten there. And then for me, I just had kind of a lot of experience outside of the area, but I was just a sports mind and I brought energy. And Bill was attracted to my energy that I brought in my MC role for Omaha Hockey because he had season tickets. So he knew that when he wanted to start.
So
a
what
radio
you're
show,
saying is if you always show the best version of yourself,
Good
you
things will
never know who's
Mhm.
listening.
Good things
I
will
try
come.
telling people, like, they're like, when you're DJing, because I really, since COVID, picked up sports DJing. You come to a Papillion La Vista South game, it's like Lincoln. Like, the vibe is just there. But people don't understand, like, I'm constantly trying to set a mood, set an atmosphere. Like volleyball, they go, why is it sometimes we hear songs that we're like, what are you playing? And I go, oh, because our team was not doing good. Coach calls a timeout. I want the background noise to be noise for them, not something they want to get hyped to. But right before they come out, you notice it starts going woo and pick them up, and they're starting to get pumped up. You got to know the moment. You got to know the atmosphere. You got to know your crowd. And people think that you're just hitting play or you're just like, no, I'm playing with their emotions more than anything else in the right way.
There was a quote that I have on my website, what's it called? My real, just my professional website. There's a quote on the front page, and it's Jack Buck. He's one of the broadcasters I looked up to growing up in St. Louis. It's those things turn out best for those that make the most of how things turn out. So I kind of took that with me every stop I went, because no matter what, kind of like what you said was, if I didn't put effort into that MC job, do you think I would have gotten a DM on Twitter from Bill to even just have a meeting? No. He would have been like, all right, well, this guy's like, the entertainer here. He's not thinking, I want this guy.
Yeah.
Or let me see if we can work something out with this guy. He didn't know if I was a freelancer. He didn't know if I was hired on with the university. He didn't know anything. He just reached out. But that wouldn't have turned out the way that it did here if it weren't for me making the most of how the thing turned out, of me leaving broadcasting to go to UNO to then get back into broadcasting, which is kind of wild. So you had mentioned like Hurrdat Sports, how that thing started. So we, as a three, we're like the Three Musketeers, and we had Grace, who was great. Grace is one of our videographers here at Hurrdat too, who wasn't even a sports, not junkie, but like her role wasn't to work with sports.
Okay,
it's kind
I
of
gotcha.
what I mean by that. But she always helped out because we needed the hands. We did the College World Series, just us three. Okay. It was myself and Grace in FanFest and Sasha and Anna inside the stadium doing interviews with the players. Nobody knew who Hurrdat Sports was. Nobody. And we were just out there doing our thing because we didn't care.
No.
Like, what are you going to tell me that I can't do an interview with you? If you say yes, here we go. Let's ride. We got credentialed. We're doing our thing. We're making connections outside of the stadium. We're making a ton of connections inside the stadium. We did a podcast. It was the first Hurrdat Sports podcast. It was Bat Flips and Party Tips. We ran that every single, I think it was 2 or 3 times a week during the College World Series. And then we did the Pinnacle Bank Championship. Same thing. Podcast for the whole weekend. Also doing interviews with the golfers. And then we just sprinkled in some more podcasts and we started grabbing more personalities. Damon Benning came over to start working for Hurrdat. Now it's getting bigger. Mike Sauter comes over. It's getting bigger. And now we have Avery Howard getting bigger. And now we have a bunch of other interns getting even bigger. Our team's like 15. I don't know half the people downstairs.
You went for the Three Musketeers
in a year. That's what's crazy. So I told them this year, I said, last year we can make mistakes. Like, if things don't go perfect, that's okay. Like, we're establishing something.
Yeah.
This year, a year in, most people couldn't say this, but we had to be perfect. We couldn't make mistakes because people knew us now.
Yeah, they know the name, they know the brand, and of course it's still growing. And when you think of building a brand from something that was just an idea, how does that change the passion?
Oh, I don't know if the passion changes at all. I want it to be even better. So, like, yes, when you start something from the very beginning, it's fulfilling to see where it is now, but we're just getting started.
And I think that's probably the scary part is people don't understand. I mean, I had my first live show. I'm greatly blessed to be on that.
Jordy Ball interview was sick.
Dude, it
And the people that came out for it, the community impact that she brings just because she's Jordy Ball.
Who she is.
But that's the Jordy Ball, the athlete. Then when you get to know Jordy Ball, the person, she'll win your heart.
And that was the whole point. Like, people are like, oh, you just want a big, no, I want to show that she is beyond the game. She is here for who she is, the people around her.
Tell me one person that hates Jordy Ball. Just tell me one person.
Well, someone that wrote on a Twitter feed that I posted that said traitor, but not spelled Traitor, but trader.
Oh, so like a literal trade.
Like a literal traitor. And I'm like, it's kind of hard to think of someone being a traitor when she gave you everything she had.
She won you 2 national titles.
Yes.
You guys lost 1 game this year.
Yes.
And she only made the move for herself.
Yes.
She could have stayed at Oklahoma, won 4 national championships, went down in the history books as the best pitcher to ever come across the college game for a long period of time.
Yes.
But instead, she's making life even harder on Jordy Ball, the athlete, by coming back to Nebraska and trying to replicate what she did at Oklahoma.
And have to know that the teammates that you have are different than the ones that you have at Oklahoma. You have to find how you can impact those teammates. Oh, but then don't wait. I can say this now. She came back. Someone wanted a one-on-one for their birthday. So one of my guys got it done with Jordy Ball. Told her, I'll pay you what I pay any trainer for basketball. He's a basketball trainer. So he went outside his realm. Jordy ghosted him after she did the workout. You know why? Because money don't matter to her. And he was like, I'm taken back, but I'm not. He's like, this is who she is. Like, everybody thinks that, oh, the NIL, but they don't understand. That's not what her family raises her on. That's not her mentality.
Yeah, personality.
And that right there, I wish I would have had for the show, because that's what he said. He's like, man, I wish I would have told you knowing this now. But he's like, she ghosted me, but I don't, like, not in a bad way. It's a matter of you're trying to pay her, and she'll decide when she wants
She
that.
stood by her morals and principles.
Yeah. And she made the world for these. And obviously she's going from softball place to softball place. She's making a name. When you look at all the people that you get to interview and you try to pull out beyond the field, what is some of the strongest things that you love to hear from these people that makes it more real? Because my interviews, everybody's like, you got to have all these questions, right? And I'm like, I think if I went that route where it's so dictated, I don't think I could get you interested. Like, I had my wife listen. She doesn't listen to all of them, and it's okay. We listened to one on a car ride, and I go, what'd you think? She goes, I want to see that girl play. Doesn't know her, doesn't know anything about her, but she goes, I want to see that girl play.
Right.
Because you bring out more of their personality.
And that's how you do an interview. In a really good interview. It's not your basic grilled cheese, right?
Yeah.
You're not just saying, say I'm doing an interview one-on-one with Jordy Ball after the game. She pitched 12 strikeouts.
Yes.
Her ERA was below 1 for the game. And you know what? Screw it. She pitched a perfect game. We're just going to say Jordy Ball pitched a perfect game. I'm not going to say, like, what are you thinking about right now? Well, what do you think I'm thinking about? I'm thinking about how awesome this was, right? That was sweet.
Well, her answers after the College World Series, you cannot, like, I haven't seen it in the
she
video.
Would say, like, credit to my teammates for standing behind me. But if you know the person, if you know that personality, even if you don't, but you can, like, pry a little bit, like, really dig into them and say, like, Jordy, you're not one to brag, but in this moment, what impact do you think an outing like this has on the rest of your team? Like, that is a deeper way to ask the question of, hey, you just rocked this. Can I cuss on this?
Yeah.
You just rocked this shit.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So there's a different way to say it. So I was doing an interview with Robbie. It's Robbie Shelton. It's Robbie Shelton, the guy that won the PGA championship last year. And I'm asking a few people about different ways that they like to interview, because I know I'm not 100% the best interviewer out there, but I'll get pointers from tons of people, and then use those questions to help further my career. Well, one question I got was, he's like, I really like to ask him, like, a childhood question, like, what would 10-year-old self be feeling right now? I'm like, wow, what a really good question. what type of answer would that solicit? Who knows? So at the very end of the interview, I'm like, all right, Robbie, take yourself back to a little league age. What would 10-year-old Robbie Shelton be thinking right now? That's a great way to say, like, hey, how far you've come as an athlete.
Yes.
And he goes, I played baseball, I played golf. And then he just breaks down into tears.
Yes.
Just breaks down in tears. And he's like, a question never hit me like this before. And as he's talking about himself at a young age, you can see the struggles he had to overcome to get back to this moment, to get his PGA card, and to get back on the tour.
And I think everybody just sees the good on social media. You see all the good. But when you know of athletes' mental side that people just don't understand, coming back from a torn ACL, they don't understand when you go from I am up here, I'm the top athlete, and then all of a sudden I get this injury, and now no one even wants to talk about it.
That's why I think Gabe Ervin is going to be awesome this year for Nebraska, because he, as a freshman, experienced the highs and lows of everything. He experienced being a true freshman and a starter for the team when he first arrived, to getting hurt 3 weeks in. I can't remember exact 3-4 weeks in, tearing his ACL. Now he's got to come back from everything. He's got to put the work in. Well, first he's got to do surgery. Then he's got to do PT. Then he's got to get his leg and body stronger. Now you got to get back in normal health.
While coach is still recruiting other people.
Right. You have to go to practice still. You have to be a team leader. You have to do everything. He learned what it was to be the off the field leader, to turn that now into just being that on and off the field, it kind of merging both worlds together. Yeah. Before that, when he got to campus, he didn't have to do that. And now maybe he did, because I don't know the real, the person he is. And I'm still learning about a lot of these guys, but if I can make an assumption, if I was a true freshman coming in, I'm the guy. Right.
Yeah.
I'm the
good.
Rock.
Yeah.
I know my leadership skills have led me to this moment. My talent has led me to this moment. But if I have to overcome injury and mentally overcome those things, and I do that, and now I'm being looked at again as the guy coming out of the room, talk about how much stronger I am now.
Yeah. And the way that you can impact a room and make them know that how important it is to not struggle alone. I think the struggle alone.
He understands it. And he was a part of the community the whole time.
Yeah.
He was doing events for the community while he was recovering. Yeah. Like some people would just kind of like, sit back and just
mope.
Not only just mope, but like, sit in their tears and be like, why me? Why me? He never questioned why me. Instead, he sat up in his chair and he said, I'm going to beat this, and I'm going to come back even stronger than I am. If Gabe Ervin goes off this year, mark it down. We'll post this clip and we'll say, because, and I want every athlete to see it. And I want them to know the Gabe Ervin story. And I'll go out and do a one-on-one with Gabe Ervin when he runs for over 1,000 yards this year and 7 touchdowns and leads Nebraska to a bowl game. We'll do it. We'll do the interview and I'll ask him the whole story, because his story, I can only imagine. And I'm assuming, and I don't normally speculate, but I'm going to speculate in this moment. His story is something that could probably be put into a book.
See, and that's why I love the interviews that I do. One of my favorite before I got to Hurrdat last year. So I lost the show, whatever happened, right? Took a year off, but it was mentally a year. Like, it was terrible. I didn't talk about it because I'm not that guy.
You didn't want anybody else to pick up your pity.
No. So I get the offer to do recording at Wired Training Center by Brian Southworth. I have a connection, get JoJo Doman in. To me, that interview there brings out exactly what you did. JoJo Doman not only had 3 defensive coordinators he had to prove wrong every time, but then the 2 torn ACL. Like, no one understands, but he explained a pit crew that you wouldn't know, going to a physical therapist all the way in Bellevue from Lincoln, not only for the physical therapy, but it's someone that played in college, and he was able to talk through the mental stuff, because his home's Colorado. It's not that far, but it's still far. And it's the same thing with Gabe Ervin of getting that of, okay, so you went through this, but who's the group around you? Because obviously your decision when you got in the lowest of the low of the broadcasting could have taken you out of this completely. The money ain't right.
Money was
the
never
atmosphere
right.
wasn't right. the drive turns around because, like you said, it's not what you want to do.
At some point, all of these other things weigh on
Yes,
your
the
desire.
final decision and I always say, if you don't want to do it, I'd much rather you not do it than just do it despite.
Mm-hmm.
Despite.
Don't go through the motions.
No, because it just isn't worth the time. It isn't worth even the story from the person. Because you can tell everything in a facial. You could tell in the voice. You can tell, I like on my last day on the AM radio, I never changed one bit, no matter what was asked of me.
It wasn't somber.
No.
Nope.
I even got asked, do you want to lead this last day? No, why would I want to do that and make it different? Well, it's your last day. That don't matter. This has never been about me. And so I've been grateful for this opportunity. And where you guys are going, I mean, I hope that there's also other opportunities. That's my goal, because I'm obviously, like you said, when you start seeing traction on the consistency that you're building, I mean, yes, Jordy Ball is amazing, and I'm blessed for that interview. Mm-hmm. But then it gets people to look at the other stories of these athletes where you don't need to know the name. You can find a connection different ways. And I always refer people to one of my favorite is a Kiki Hadley. No one will know the name unless you've done powerlifting. If you've never done powerlifting, I've never done powerlifting. If it wasn't for my daughter, at an average school, this girl is the number one talked about in a bad way because of the looks, the size, the color, everything. They are just against the world as teens. They are just evil people when it comes to that stuff. But you get her in front of the 400 and some odd people at a powerlifting thing, she is the queen. She is the one everybody eyes on. They want her to succeed. And that energy just can't be built. That is what, don't get me wrong, I love football. I love all these team sports. But when you see individuals being able to be individuals and get out of their comfort zone to be a queen, as I would say in this case, where you get on that mat and you're lifting 450 pounds and everybody's just watching it in amazement. It's those stories that really trap the heart of going, man, there's stuff beyond the regular field or the stuff that everybody knows, or people that don't have social media, and you're sharing their story because they don't have all the clips. They don't have all the stuff, but they still have a journey that someone might be able to find one little thing from that journey to get them over that hump. When you're going through all this process and you got onto Hurrdat Sports, what was the biggest picture that you saw in the future, and how close are you guys to it?
Well, I think we hit, or we painted the entire picture that we wanted to hit right away. We had a vision, we ran with the idea, and we executed. We executed to the fullest. But now, if you're an artist, if you're a well-known artist, you don't just stop after one painting.
No.
You do it again, and then you do something even bigger. Who was it? Did Michelangelo paint the Sistine Chapel? Cam, thank you.
Yep.
I got the thumbs up. He's smarter than I am. He didn't just do that overnight. Nobody asked him to paint the Sistine Chapel right away. Yeah. He had to start somewhere. So you do one painting, you do another, and the bigger and bigger and bigger you go. That's kind of where Hurrdat Sports is now. The first painting's done. Now we're on our second painting. And year after year, we're going to paint something new, something bigger, something brighter, something bolder, something that gets placed in the center of the biggest town out there, or at least in the town of Omaha. I talked about leaving a footprint. Hurrdat Sports is our foot's still in the sand. We haven't lifted it yet. And we won't lift it until we get to where we can really make an impact on the community, on the people, on just everything here in this area and beyond. We have greater visions than just here in the state.
Well, I can tell you, seeing people at the NFL draft, seeing people at the basketball,
March Madness,
that to me hit home of where you guys are looking.
The visions right now are to imagine if you franchised a restaurant. You don't just franchise in Omaha.
No.
You go to other places like McDonald's. I watched The Founder over the weekend. They went from San Bernardino to a bunch of places in Illinois, to a bunch of places in Minnesota, to a bunch of places in then Pennsylvania and across the country. And that's how McDonald's really became
who they are.
The empire
Yeah.
that they are in the fast food industry. I'm not saying Hurrdat Sports is looking to relocate as quick as McDonald's, but there is desire to do what we do here other places.
Well, I mean, your home is St. Louis. You never know. I mean, it's still in the Midwest. It's a high possibility.
That would be a dream, man. That would be a dream.
Well, do you see the biggest thing that I like about your guys' show, Coffee and Cream, is people would go,
the irony behind the title?
Well, exactly. But what I like is you guys know the moments you have to be the coffee for each other. And you know the moments you have to be the cream. You're using your strengths instead of trying to overpower who is what.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like it. I like it smooth transition, obviously with a lot of laughter. You're able to enjoy, enjoy the fact that it's just a conversation. Yeah, stats are cool. Stats are great. But if you can't enjoy that laughter in the moment with someone or even calling each other out on different things, you can't grow to be who you are today. Coffee and Cream obviously is 3 hours. What's the whole goal for Coffee and Cream, and what are you guys looking to finish on?
I think not only are we just trying to take over the market, like we want to be the number one morning show in the market. The big goal is just to kind of leave people thinking every single day. Like, have your opinion. Don't just like use what we say to mold your opinion. Have your opinion, but also like we want to be able to every single day leave you with something new. So like today we talked about discipline. Like we talk about Coach Rule and parenting and family and the dynamic that Nebraska football every day, right? But it's always something different. Like my mom and I had a conversation over the weekend about discipline of just kids in households and parenting and things like that. And how I then tied it back to, like a lot of that is what Coach Rule's doing. And that's how he hopes to lead to a successful first year, is by parenting these kids and keeping them disciplined. And hopefully that will turn into success.
Yes.
It's kind of like, I mean, you said you were a parent at a young age. I'm not going to be nosy and really get into your life, but I'm sure you had to grow up at a very early stage in life, and then you probably didn't really know how to parent because you'd never done it before, and like that. Those are conversations that it's great for DB and I to have, because I come at it with a lot of innocence, with a lot of not really knowing, because I am not a parent, and he's parented 4 kids.
Yeah.
So like he knows.
And the age range goes from top to bottom.
He knows.
And 2 different generations.
And he's a football coach.
Yeah.
So he not only parents his household, he parents 80 to 100 other kids every single fall and beyond.
People don't understand that part of it. And I say it. As I said, I'm trying for upper management. Cool. If I get it, I get it. But I treat that the same way as when I did coach football for the 10 years and when I did coach anything else, just as my kids. Mm-hmm. No matter the age, these people are like your kids. If you treat them that way, to understand the discipline, the dedication, the actual accountability, I think that's the number one word, accountability. And you get them to understand the pride and behind it, instead of I'm telling you to tell you, I'm telling you so you understand the whys. We don't take it for granted, but we're very blessed to where our kids can go out in public. They're obviously older now, but all the way through, it was always great to hear, man, your kids act right. And that's if there's a mark,
compliment a parent could get.
If you can leave that mark on your own kids, you know you can leave it on others. When as you're growing up and you're learning this process of the fatherhood part, how do you let that mold your thoughts, even with dealing with employees or with stuff like that? Have you kind of taken that?
I don't know if I've taken that inventory just yet.
Yeah.
But I will say that I can't wait to be a father, and I can't wait to use what I learned growing up as a baseline for how I want to parent, because there were tons of things when I was going through high school that I disagreed with my parents, yet they always had my best interests at heart. But I didn't see that because I'm a dumb teenager just trying to get away with, whatever teenagers are getting away with nowadays. Thanks, Cam. But yeah, it's just I want to be able to. I'm a lifelong learner, so I want to be able to look into somebody like you and get to know how you parent. I already have my parents as like the hierarchy,
yes,
right?
yes.
They're at the top of the chain. But then I look at like my soon-to-be mother-in-law. I look at DB, who I'm surrounded with every day. I look at my siblings who are now parents. I look at just a lot of people, and I'm like, okay, I like how you do that. Okay, I like how you do that. Now I'm going to try to incorporate a lot of things that I've learned into the way that, like,
to the Rogers household, that will be.
But not only like take everybody else's thoughts and make it mine, but I'm going to use a lot of baselines in order to discover what I want mine to look like.
Yeah. Well, I greatly appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you.
I tell you, one of the craziest things was going down to Dallas, and I'm at this random graduate. It's not random graduation, but I would consider it that, right? I'm all the way in Dallas.
Yeah.
And these
I know where this story's going.
the mom of the graduate goes, he's on the radio back home. And I'm like, I'm not on the radio anymore. I just do a podcast. And this couple was like, yeah, where? And I go, on Hurrdat. They go, do you know Andrew Rogers? And I go, you mean the guy who's always smiling just like you guys right now? And they're like, he's a great, great neighbor. And they're like, man, wait until we go back and we get to tell him.
First thing they said to me when I pulled into the driveway, you'll never believe who we met, Andrew. We met Kendall. You work with Kendall. I'm like, Kendall?
Weird. Who the Kendall? Who's that?
Well, but this was like before. I'm like, okay, Kendall. Like, I'm thinking immediate workers. Like, I work with DB and Shane.
Exactly.
Day. Like, those are the people.
Those are the people.
And then Sasha, and then it like branches off to Anna and Avery and Cam and some other people. I'm like, Kendall. Like, yeah, a podcaster. He looks like a football lineman, and I'm like, I know what I know Kendall. Yeah. But I'm like, you know what's funny about like, you say like, I know, or like when they say, Andrew, you know him. It's like they don't realize how big Hurrdat's actually gotten.
Yeah.
Since I first started there, they think it's just coffee and cream, and that's really it. And so by explaining then, hey, Kendall's on a podcast along with like 27 other podcasts.
Yes.
It's crazy though that they ran into you down there. I mean, small world. Really
people have no idea.
World.
And the connection that you made with them proves where Hurrdat is today, where they're going. Like you said, they know that you are the guy.
We're going to make sure the people matter before we matter.
Exactly.
Like the content that we do, the people that we talk to, those are like great, but it's the impact that we leave on those listening to us, to those people that we talk to the events that we cover. That matters more to us than the likes
or the getting
shares,
recognized. Yes.
The recognition.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, because if there's one thing about that Kiki Hadley, I shared it with one of my fellow high school friends. We're in our 40s. We're not young. But she goes, Kendall, and she has similar stature. She goes, I wish this was an option when I was in school. Someone always wanted me to move the piano or this or that, but not once did I get offered to move the weight. And she's not a big sports person. That's what I love about all this. Like, you don't have to love sports to listen to a conversation that might be a little more informing of, like you said, a third grader, knowing that I've went through all these different costumes. We've all done it, but the one costume land out on a suit. Well, once again, this is a Hurrdat production of Wired Podcast. I greatly appreciate Andrew Rogers from the morning show Coffee and Cream, and we'll see you next time.